Welcome back to Willie Farms. We are glad you are here today. Well, I don't think the standard box is going to fit here. We're going to have to do something else. Today we're going to be building some rabbit nest boxes. And my cages are a little small, so I've got to come up with a way to get those boxes down into those cages. And I think I've got a plan. We'll find out. Now, the standard size rabbits, the larger breed rabbits, the Rex, California, New Zealand, need a box that is at least 10 inches wide, about 16 to 8 inches deep, about 12 inches tall. So that's what we're going to be going for. And my cages or doors are a little small for those to fit into, but I've got a plan for that, and we'll see if that works. The first thing I'm going to do is take my board. It's about 10 inches wide, and we're going to cut it down to 17 inches. And then we're going to use this piece in a different spot. That will be our bottom. Now we got to do the same thing with the two sides. We're just going to use this to mark it. It's not what I'd normally do if I was building cabinets or something, but in this case, it will be fine. All right, now that we've got our sides and our bottom, we're going to put those together. We got our sides and our bottom. Now what we want this to do is come out and then taper down. So we can decide how far out we want to come. We want to come big enough where the rabbit can sit on top of this, because sometimes they do that. In a colony or something, they'd want to sit above their baby rabbits. So we're going to come out probably 6 inches or so and then taper down. And we want this lip on here to keep the mama from accidentally kicking the babies out of the nest. So we're going to have that about 3 inches tall. So let's get our taper figured out. If we make that top 6 inches, we'll mark it at the bottom, and then we're going to taper it down to 3 inches. Now we're going to take a straight edge, which we're going to use this board, and mark our taper. Mark our taper on our next side. Now we can put the sides on the bottom. What we want to do is get this started. It's going to be 3/4 of an inch wide. All right, got our two sides on. Now time for the back. So that back needs to be 11 1/4, 9 3/4. Now we need a front. That's going to be too short. Now for our top. That's going to be about right. That was our cutoff from our front piece, and it worked out perfectly. I've got a week before I have to install my first one of these, and then a few days later. You want to install these into their cages about day 28. If you put it in earlier, they're just going to chew on it and use it as a toilet, and you just don't need to do that. So about day 28, after you've bred them, is when you put these in. Now, we got to modify our cages. Today, we're going to be modifying the rabbit cages a little bit. Not really happy with what I have, and I'm not sure this is going to solve the problem. Eventually, we're going to have to get new cages. But we are going to try to modify these until we can get that into our budget to build new cages. Well, I've got another section of the layer cages still left. And the first thing I've got to do is put a new bottom in this one. This one's pretty rusted. I'm going to use a 1/2-inch hardware cloth for that. Now that we've got it cut, I have got to roll that up where I can stick it through the small opening of the cage. Not an easy task. Now we had to J-clip that 1/2-inch hardware cloth to the bottom. Took me a little while to get it done, but we got it done. Now we're going to mount the cage to 2 pieces of square tubing on the bottom. I think this come out of a clothing store shop, I'm not sure. But you use what you got. I secured the cage to those metal tubings with some wire, wrapped it around, twisted on it. I already had some pre-drilled holes in the tubing, so I just used those. So now it's time to modify the cages so I can get the nesting boxes in. And I've decided to cut a hole through the top and drop it down that way. And then I can seal that top up with wire or a clip or both to hold it in place. I made the cuts on 3 sides. That way I could use the part that was left as a hinge. Now that it's secure, it's time to hang them in the rabbitry. Now I've got the cages mounted. I've got my rabbit nesting boxes in place, and it's day 28, so it's time to fill them with hay and to move the rabbits to their new home. Now what we've got here is old layer hen cages for egg layers, and they had about a little over a foot wide, a little over a foot deep, and a little over a foot high. So we have modified these to become rabbit cages, and we had them where they were in 2 sections, which was about 26 or 27 inches wide, and we have taken out another divider, and that gives them a little over 3 foot in width. Now the height is fine, and the width is still a little narrow. It's at about 19 inches. That gives them more room now. They can lay down, they can relax. Now you can see each one of these hoops is a door that were to the layer cage, and they had 2 wide. So that was their width from about here to the end. So we took out another divider, and now they've got 4 cages widths. So there is. Now the bucks are still in a 2 wide pen, and that's fine for them. They're not going to be having babies or having to take care of babies in there, so that will be fine. We do need to make their cages a little larger to make it easier for the does when we put them in there for breeding purposes. But right now, that will do. So what we did is we took this one row, which housed all 6 rabbits, and now it has 4 rabbits in it. And then on this side, we had another one, and we have got 3 wide on this one. It's not quite as big as the 4 wides. We made it 3 wide, and that gives the rabbits much more room. And this eventually will be the 2 buck cages until we can build new cages. And remember, count your blessings every day, and I believe you will find you're blessed far beyond measure. I know that I am. God bless. We'll see y'all later.